All right, so we have a gloomy day here in Los Angeles and a gloomy day in the markets right now, ending in 2024. But anyway, I'm going to give you some predictions on what I think is going to happen in 2025. I'm going to give you a little recap of what happened in 2024 with Bitcoin, with MicroStrategy, with Tesla. And also, I'm going to give you a little education on these investments that I've invested in personally with MicroStrategy and Bitcoin, and I like to put it in like a third to fifth grade level. So this is a channel for people who are non-money or non-investment people that want to be more involved in investing and know more about investing. And so I try to keep it at a very, very simple level so that anybody can understand. Sometimes I do get into trades that I'm making, but it's just graphs and stuff. And today I'm also going to talk about a trade that I placed last week where I am down 15% on it. So I'll give you the upside of things and give you the downside of things too. So let's just go into a little bit of Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, and also talk a little bit about Tesla as well. Here's what I think is going to happen in 2025 in terms of my price predictions. But first, before we get into the price predictions, let's just look back and take a look at what happened in 2024. You get to the end of the year, and a lot of times when we're looking at Bitcoin that peaked out at around 108,000 so far this year, and as it's screaming up, we're all super excited. But then as Bitcoin drops down, 18% or so, or 15% or what have you, it's down at about 92,000 right now. As it drops down, people start to go crazy and flip out a little bit of like, oh my God, it's down, more than 15%. And anybody who's been in Bitcoin for years and years, like I have, and many other people that might be watching this, we've seen these ups and downs many, many, many times. So it's not a surprise. I don't think it's anything to get freaked out about at all. And I'm very bullish for 2025. And I'm very bullish for 2025 because I've lived through cycles like this as it relates to Bitcoin. I lived through the last cycle, lived through the cycle before that, and I watched them very closely all along the way. So let's do a little recap of what happened in 2024 so we can actually look at the gains and the great things that happened with these different stocks and cryptocurrencies. And then let's look at what's going to happen, what I think in 2025. I'm not giving financial advice at all here. I'm just giving you a little bit of data and what I personally think is going to happen in 2025. So basically, here's the gist, right? First off, for Bitcoin, at the start of 2024, Bitcoin was around $42,000 or $40,000. And remember, the ETFs came out early on this year. So that was approximately about the price point when the ETFs came out and what Bitcoin was at in the beginning of the year. And so right now, Bitcoin's around $92,000. So when you look at it, we're looking at more than a double in 2024 for Bitcoin. Okay. Now, as we're looking at this now, sometimes as the markets fly up, people start buying in. I know I have friends who've bought in for the first time into Bitcoin at 95,000, 100,000. It's their first time ever getting in. But, if you got in early in the year, you're looking at your gains and you're looking at Bitcoin being up over 100%. I bought in to Bitcoin. My first Bitcoin purchase was back in 2018. I bought into Bitcoin. My first Bitcoin's around $3,000. So obviously on my first initial purchases, I'm way up. I bought back in heavy again in November this past year when Bitcoin was around $30-something thousand in 2023. So, those of us who bought in early, we're fine with the fluctuations, and we've sat through the fluctuations before, and we've seen this happen, right? So just remember, Bitcoin had a heck of a year. It more than doubled this year, even at today's price at 92, because in the beginning of the year, Bitcoin was at 40,000. Now, if you look at, the returns of the S&P 500, the S&P 500 index is up at about 26% this year. But remember, it doesn't do that every year. The S&P average over the last 4 or 5 years has been about 14%. And the S&P 500, it basically is the top 500 companies, okay, in the U.S. So just gives you a little bit of context. The S&P, which is kind of like the stable investment for a lot of different people in the United States, the 500 top companies in the U.S., it's doing 26% this year. Bitcoin's up over 100%, okay? So that's big news. Where do I think Bitcoin's going to go by the end of 2025, or in 2025, I should say? I'll tell you in just a moment. I'll tell you why I think that's going to happen as well. Also, let's look at MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is very, very interesting. It's also very volatile. So if you look at the volatility index of the S&P 500, it's at about a 15. If you look at the volatility index for Bitcoin, it's about a 60 volatility. And if you look at it for MicroStrategy, it's at about a 90. So what does that mean? I mean, MicroStrategy is extremely volatile, right? Extremely volatile. If I look at the ticker right now, I'm not going to pull it up right now, but it's about, a little over 300 right now. So, and the high of MicroStrategy, if you look up the data of this, the high of MicroStrategy this year was about 479. In the aftermarkets, it went as high as 530. So if you look at the data, it'll tell you it's 479, the high for MicroStrategy, but it was really trading as high as 530 this year. And now it's down to 300. So what is that? Is that a 60% drop or so? Roughly, right? So is that a 60% drop? No, not quite. So it's at about, that's about a 40% drop. Okay. So MicroStrategy, you can see how volatile it is. Now, a little bit about MicroStrategy, because I've been in MicroStrategy since early this year. If you look at where MicroStrategy's been in the beginning of the year, it's up over 400%. So, MicroStrategy's only trading at about, if we look at it right now, it's at 300. Bitcoin's 91,941, and MicroStrategy right now is trading at 304. So it's trading very low comparatively to what it's been over the last couple months. MicroStrategy is trading very low. Again, its high was 479, but in the aftermarkets and pre-markets, 530. So MicroStrategy is down from its high. So if you watched a rocket ride and now you bought in high and you're watching it now, you're like, okay, I'm down quite a bit. But if you look at the performance of MicroStrategy since early 2024, it's up over 400%. And if you kind of look at the ride, I'll give you the ride of MicroStrategy so you can kind of see its performance. So basically, we're looking at early in the year, okay? At the beginning of the year, their stock was around $60, okay? So the MicroStrategy stock was at about $60. I bought in at about $68, and then I bought in also heavy at $92 early this year, and then it did a 10-for-1 stock split. So if you watched like early in the year, in 2024, MicroStrategy was like, when I was buying in, it was like really at like 600, right? And then it shot up. And we watched it run up at that time before the stock split. It ran up to like 1,900. Okay. And so it ran way up. And then we also watched it pull back, because I remember the time where MicroStrategy was on a run. I think it was maybe in February or something. I'm just going off memory. Early this year, February or March. And it just ran up 1,900. And then we watched it drop down back to like 1,100 or so. Okay. So we've seen this stock move drastically up, and we've seen it move drastically down. And now, late 2024, we saw it run up again after its stock split. So the stock split, and we saw it run up again. And then we saw MicroStrategy pull back just now again. So when it went from 1,900 to 1,100, that's not quite a 50% drop, but that's what, like a 40% drop or so. And then we just watched it again shoot up to about 500 and now down to about 300, 40% drop. Now, since I bought in early and I'm up very high on MicroStrategy, I'm up very high on Bitcoin. So I'm not concerned about the drops. But even if you bought in late, I think we're going to see a big run in 2025 for MicroStrategy, and I think we're going to see a run in 2025 for Bitcoin. So those are the two that I have my highest positions in. I also do own Tesla. So I'll talk with you what I think Tesla is going to go to as well. But here's what I think is going to happen. Now, remember, MicroStrategy, they own approximately, if you look right now, MicroStrategy just bought more Bitcoin today. So the data as of December 8th, they owned about 423,000 Bitcoin. And now the data of December 30th, they obviously own a bunch more. Okay. So MicroStrategy owns a lot of Bitcoin. Now, what do I think is going to happen in 2025 for Bitcoin and MicroStrategy? I think my case for Bitcoin, I think we're going to see this isn't a bear case for me. This is kind of like, I think a standard prediction for me is like, I think we'll see $150,000 Bitcoin. On a bullish scenario, I think we see a $200,000 Bitcoin. Okay. Now, I think if we keep seeing the adoption of corporations putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet in 2025, like they are right now, because there's a heavy corporate adoption of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So if we keep seeing this, I think we're going to see a high run up on Bitcoin. I think at that point, if we keep seeing the adoption of Bitcoin on the balance sheet of these corporations at the rate that it's going, I think easily we'll hit 150,000. If the U.S. follows through with their Bitcoin plan, there's talks of the U.S. Adding Bitcoin as a strategic Bitcoin reserve in their treasury. There's talks about the U.S. buying 200,000 Bitcoin per year every year until 2030, which would mean the U.S. would own 1 million Bitcoin by 2030. Will they do that? I don't know. Do I think the U.S. will adopt Bitcoin as a strategic reserve to some degree? I definitely think they will to some degree, because Trump already said that they won't sell their Bitcoin. And he's already talked about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And I think he would be very unpopular to us fans who are in Bitcoin and us Bitcoiners if he decided not to do that to some degree. To what degree the U.S. does it, who knows? We'll see. Okay. So if the U.S. does it and does it even moderately, I think other governments will follow, and then Bitcoin will shoot up even higher. So my bullish case is 200K for Bitcoin. I think we'll hit 150. I do think we'll hit 150. MicroStrategy. What will we see happen in MicroStrategy? Some analysts that are bullish on MicroStrategy. Some are predicting that we'll see MicroStrategy go to 1,400. And there's quite a few things that need to happen for MicroStrategy to go to 1,400 from my point of view. So number one, I think Saylor will keep buying aggressively. If you look at Saylor's purchases, David saying, I think MicroStrategy Bitcoin has more downside. Yeah, absolutely. We could see it go down more. I don't disagree with that, particularly where the end of the year right now, there could be more sell-offs today. There could be more sell-offs tomorrow. For tax plays, oftentimes you see people selling off at the end of the year and institutions selling off. So we could see selling off now. I think we're going to see a strong January when Trump gets in. That's my point of view. And I think we're going to see some more bullish sentiment at that time. But anyway, back to MicroStrategy. So when we look at it, I'm going to give you some rough figures on this, but what I think is going to happen with MicroStrategy and what they did in 2024. One, back in 2020, MicroStrategy bought $250 million of Bitcoin initially by emptying out their treasury. They had $250 million in their treasury, and they dumped it all into Bitcoin. And then since then, Saylor's been buying more and more. They bought Bitcoin at a very low price at that time, but the strategy of MicroStrategy has been to buy more and more and more Bitcoin, and they've done that. And so approximately between about 2020 and 2024, you need to fact check this. MicroStrategy bought about $10 billion worth of Bitcoin. And then in the last 8 weeks, the purchase has been approximately $14 or $15 billion worth of Bitcoin. So when you look at like a 4-year time horizon in 2020 to 2024, MicroStrategy buying approximately 10 billion, I'm saying approximate, of Bitcoin. And then in the last 8 weeks, the amount of Bitcoin they bought, which is another 15 billion approximately, that's a huge increase in their acquisition of Bitcoin. All right. And now to date, I don't know the exact amount they own right now. I'd have to look at it, but it's 430 something, 439,000 perhaps of Bitcoin that they own right now. So, so they own a lot of Bitcoin right now. So there are talks that they could buy another 400,000 worth of Bitcoin in 2025. And I think if they do that in 2025, I believe that MicroStrategy will be over $1,000 in 2025. So right now it's at 300. That would be a 3x from here. And so I think we could see $1,000 MicroStrategy in 2025. Certainly, if Bitcoin gets to $200,000, we definitely are going to see $1,000 MicroStrategy from my viewpoint. If MicroStrategy keeps buying at the rate that they're buying, and buys it, let's say another 400,000 of Bitcoin, and let's say Bitcoin goes to 200,000, and MicroStrategy buys 400,000 additional of Bitcoin, I think we could see, MicroStrategy going to 12, 13, 1,400 bucks. So, so that's my bullish case for it, somewhere between 1,000 and 1,300 in 2025, which is a 3x from here. I think my base case for it, of where we'll see MicroStrategy in 2025, is 800, and with Bitcoin going to 150,000 and MicroStrategy keeping up their buys, I think we will see MicroStrategy at $800. So that is about it's less than a double of where MicroStrategy was in terms of its all-time high of 479 or so this year. But I think it's more than a double from where we're at right now. And so I think we'll see 800 is kind of my base case. I think 1,000 to 1,300 is my bullish case for MicroStrategy. All right, so that's exciting. 10S is physical. So bought MicroStrategy this morning, was down MSTU at 17%. Cool, man. Let's see what happens on the trade this morning for you. So that's what's happening. And that's what I think. Now, why am I bullish on Bitcoin and why am I bullish on MicroStrategy? I think a couple reasons, right? I think number one, I believe that MicroStrategy is still the greatest financial move of our entire last 100 years. I think what Saylor's doing is the most brilliant thing I've ever seen. And I think it's very simple to understand what he's actually doing. I don't see him stopping buying Bitcoin. In fact, he proclaims that he will continue to buy Bitcoin, and he will continue to buy Bitcoin, and he will continue to buy Bitcoin, meaning MicroStrategy will. He's the founder of MicroStrategy. So why do I think it's brilliant? Number one, they're holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Okay. Number two, they keep buying more and more Bitcoin. Number three, it's really simple. If you look at what they're doing, they're borrowing money to buy Bitcoin on one leg. So on one leg, they're borrowing money to buy Bitcoin. On the other leg, when they issue more shares and people buy their stock, they're taking that money and they're buying more Bitcoin. So in a very simple example of what's happening, MicroStrategy is basically, let's call it, getting loans, right? They're issuing debt, but in very simple terms, they're getting loans, right? To put it in third grade terms. So people loan them money. They're getting loan money. In some cases, it's 0%. And so they're able to then leverage that money that they're getting loaned, and they're buying Bitcoin. Why do I think it's a safe play for them over 4 or 5 year periods? We know the stock is super volatile, but we know that Bitcoin over every 4 year period has gone up. And so they're betting that Bitcoin's going to go up in the long term. And if you believe in Bitcoin, and you believe that Bitcoin's going to go up over the long term, and if you believe that Bitcoin is digital gold, and if you believe it's superior to gold, then you might believe in what MicroStrategy is doing. And simply, I don't see how people can't see that Bitcoin is the future. I don't understand how somebody couldn't understand why Bitcoin is here and now and why it is the future. why it is more superior to gold, why since the ETFs have come out, and the Bitcoin ETFs have destroyed the inflows of the ETFs in gold. So when the ETFs of gold came out years ago, decades ago, in 11 or 12 months, more money's flowed into the Bitcoin ETFs than in all the history of the ETF inflows into gold. And so we're seeing a surge that we've never seen before. And as a result of the ETFs and money flowing into them, as a result of corporate adoption of Bitcoin, where corporations are putting it on their balance sheet, and as a result of the U.S., Trump in particular, speaking highly of Bitcoin and it being a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and as a result of Bitcoin being digital gold, as a result of being able to transfer Bitcoin very, very fast, where Bitcoin is not portable, gold is not portable like Bitcoin is. I mean, I can get on and transfer my Bitcoin right now in seconds from one exchange to the next, maybe minutes, let's say, right? So it is superior, and it is here and now. And so when you look at MicroStrategy's play for what they're doing with Bitcoin, they're betting that it's going to go up over every 4 or 5 year period. They're borrowing money at 0% right now. And so over a 4 to 5 year period, I don't see a lot of risk in what they're doing at all. And then you take a look at what they're doing on the flip side of that. On one side, they're borrowing money to invest in Bitcoin. And on the other side, they're issuing stock. And just like any company issues stock, like a Google or a Microsoft or an Apple issue stock, the difference is MicroStrategy is taking the money they get when they issue stock. And all that happens is they issue stock and people like you and me buy it. So they issue stock. They're like, here's more stock. We buy their stock. They take our money and they go and they buy more Bitcoin. So on two flows, they're buying more Bitcoin, right? They're getting money that's loaned to them and they're buying Bitcoin, and they're issuing stock and collecting money and buying more Bitcoin. And that's the play. And that's as simple as it is. And they're doing it on leverage. And so when you look at why MicroStrategy is going up by more than Bitcoin, is because they can leverage, right? They can leverage the financial markets. They can manipulate the markets a little bit. I know it's a strong word, but let's face it, right? They can play the markets. They can play on leverage, and they can leverage money. And that's what we're seeing happen. And so while we love Bitcoin because it's decentralized, we love it because no government controls it. The most amount of Bitcoin owned right now is a race between MicroStrategy and BlackRock. So we're looking at institutions gobbling it up, and it's here to stay. Will we continue to see fluctuations? Yeah, we will. The market cap of Bitcoin it's not super high, and it's still a relatively new asset, even though it's been around since 2008. Eventually, years to come, will Bitcoin level out? Will the returns not be as high? Yeah. It might be similar to an S&P 500 index return years into the future. The S&P did 26% this year so far. Bitcoin's up over 100% this year. Eventually, the returns on Bitcoin will level out in the future. This year coming up in 2025, I think we'll see another 50, 60% increase from here as my base case. I think we might see a double to 200,000. So it's exciting, and if you're getting in now, I'm not recommending anybody buy it now or trade it now. I'm just sharing my perspective on it. And I also, if I was in a situation now where I was first buying Bitcoin now, which I'm not, remember, I bought my first Bitcoin at $3,000. So if I was in a situation now, would I say start buying Bitcoin at $95,000? If I believe that it was going to go up over 4 to 5 years, which I do, and I was brand new, would I buy in? Yeah, I would. I would buy in, but I would only buy in with the idea that I'm going to hold it over a 4, 5, 10-year lifetime period. That's it. But I would not buy in now to go, hey, I'm going to buy in 2025 is going to be amazing, because we could see Bitcoin go from 92,000 now, shoot up to 200,000 in 2025, and we could see it drop back down below 100,000. So unless I believed and Bitcoin was going to go up over a 4 or 5 year period, and let's say I was brand new to it, would I buy in? I would. But I'm not brand new to it. So I'm just giving you a hypothetical scenario on it. And anybody who buys into these assets, there is risk associated with it, because like every bull run we've had, we've seen Bitcoin go up during the bull run, and then we've seen it crash down 70 and 80%. Do I think we'll see 70 to 80% drawdowns in this bull run and then back down 70 to 80%? I don't think the drawdowns will be that high. Do I think we could see a 50% pullback? Yeah, I do. I mean, recently we just saw, a 16, 17% pullback in Bitcoin. So could it be that we hit the bull run and we hit a 50%, 60% drawdown? Absolutely, that could happen. So you just got to look at these things from the perspective of the risk that you're willing to take, and also from the perspective of what's your time horizon in investing in this. Because a lot of times people will get into these assets and they'll look at it and go, wow, I'm in for 2025. I'm going to make a lot of money in 2025. And if you haven't sat through and watched these bull markets before go up and experience a crash, like I've sat through it in 2018, when we went up in 2017 and down in 2018. I sat through it in 2020, the ups and the downs, and I'm now watching it go up now, and we'll see a shoot up in 2025, and we will see a pullback. That's just my prediction. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. Long term, do I think it is a superior asset to the majority of assets that are out there when I'm talking about Bitcoin? Absolutely 100%. Why? Because it's scarce and there's a fixed supply. And if you were to look at the S&P 500 over a 4 or 5 year period, it's a 14% return. Right? And if you looked at the printing of money, the money supply, we've been printing money by about 7% on average every year since the beginning of time, since money's existed in the US. So if you're not earning more than 7% a year, you're just not getting ahead. All right. So people invest in the S&P 500 because they want to stay ahead and outpace inflation. Now the reports came out that inflation was like between 2 and 3%, but that's not real. Because when the money supply is going up by an average over the last 100 years, by an average of 7% a year, that means you have to make 7% per year to stay even with the increase in the money supply. So you need to start looking for other assets that over the long run are going to go up. And you need to start looking at other investments that are going to go up. This isn't financial advice. It's just true data. And so why do I think holding Bitcoin over the long term is superior? Because it is a fixed supply. There's only 21 million. So it makes a lot of sense. With gold, we're mining 2 to 3% more gold every year. So if you did the time value of money and you projected gold out over a 100-year period, gold would lose a lot of its value over 100 years because the supply is going up by 2 to 3% every year. Make sense? Because we're mining more gold. Right? The dollar is going to lose its value over 100 years. The dollar will lose 97 and 98% of its value. Why? Because we increase the supply of dollars by 7% every year. And in 2020, 2021, 2022, if you look at the data on it, the money supply went up by 42% during COVID, about 14% a year. So if you were in the S&P 500 in 2020, 2021, 2022, and the average was 14%, and the money supply was going up by 14%, essentially you made nothing in terms of your purchasing power. So looking for our alternative investments and looking for what's going to go up over time and what's going to be a good store of value, Bitcoin is a good store of value. It's where you want to store the value of your money. Do I think gold is a good store of value over the long term? Now, over the next 50 years, I don't think it is. Would I put my money in gold over Bitcoin? Absolutely not. Is gold still a good or decent store of value? Yeah. But is it the future of what's going to be the store of value and the smartest store of value? I don't think at all, not even close. I think it's yesterday's news. And if you look at technology today, I just think it's silly for us to think that in a technological world where we're advancing, we have AI, we have full driving cars now with Tesla. We have the advance of technology is so great right now. To think that our money wouldn't be digital is just ridiculous. It's just a ridiculous premise to think that we're going to live in the world of gold and live in the world of coins and And that's going to be, this type of hard, gold bar that I can hold is going to be the future of store of value of the world. It's just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous concept. And so the fact that we would say that Bitcoin is going to be the future store of value, living in a digital economy, a digital world, makes sense, right? It just makes sense. And if you look at the trends in the history of just look at things that have gone digital over our time. I mean, even books. You used to walk into a freaking bookstore and go buy books, and then all of a sudden you had Kindles come out and you had iPads come out, and people just started doing things digitally. We used to go to movies, man. Like, I just went to go see Gladiator, but I didn't even go to the movies. I intended to go to the movies. We bought tickets to go see Gladiator 2, and it came out on Netflix, and so we just watched it on Netflix. When Blockbuster existed years ago, and there was a little company back then that said, "Hey, Blockbuster, please buy us out." They gave Blockbuster an opportunity to buy them for like $50 million at the time. And Blockbuster's like, "No, we're not. This is ridiculous. We're not going to buy into this little company that believes they're going to stream movies online." And that was Netflix. Netflix gave Blockbuster an opportunity to buy them, and they didn't buy them. And what happened to Blockbuster? They went out of business. So if you look at this physical world that we live in, and this concept that people want to own and touch the thing and be able to touch the thing. I want to be able to touch my money. Your money is not backed by anything. It's paper, right? And most of you don't carry around cash anyway. So the concept that we carry around, like that money is even today a physical thing. It's not a physical thing. It's literally, when you look at it in your bank account, you look at your ledger and you see numbers on a screen. And those numbers exist because you have a government that prints and puts money into the money supply. We went off the gold standard. What was it, 1971, right around then when Nixon took us off the gold standard? So our dollar hasn't been backed by gold since 1971. Right? So is the dollar still strong? Yeah, it's still part of the world's reserve currency. Yeah, there's a lot of currencies out there still pegged to the dollar. Yeah. So is the dollar still strong? Yes, it is. But over time, the dollar in 100 years will lose 97% of its value. You're not going to store your money in the dollar. Okay. And if you do it, you can type it into ChatGPT right now. Like if I own gold now and we keep mining gold, 2 to 3% more gold per year over the next 100 years, what will the value of my gold be in 100 years? Go look, you'll lose the majority of the value of your gold. So over 100 years, it won't be a good store of value. Why will Bitcoin be a good store of value over 100 years? Because there is a fixed supply. So when you're not increasing the supply over time, then you're not losing the purchasing power of that asset. Now you might say, well, the supply is still going up. Yeah, Bitcoin is still, we're still issuing more Bitcoin, right? So the Bitcoin network is still issuing more Bitcoin on a daily basis, but there's already 19 million of it already in supply. There's only 21 million Bitcoin, right? I think approximately on the research, maybe 4 million has already been lost due to people just losing their wallets. So there's only 2 million or so more Bitcoin. And so over the next decades, right, the more and more Bitcoin is going to be issued. We just saw the halving. So the halving just took place, 7 or 8 months ago. And that's why we see this bull run happening. It happens every 4 years where Bitcoin starts to shoot up. Specifically, it's usually because of the halving, meaning the supply of Bitcoin cuts in half, right? Back in 2023, the daily issuance of Bitcoin was about 900 Bitcoin being issued every single day. Today, since the halving took place early in the year, 6, 7, 8 months ago, the daily issuance of Bitcoin is 450. The supply cut in half. Does this make sense? So when the supply cuts in half, supply cutting in half, right? That means when the supply cuts in half and the demand goes up, the price starts going up. All right. And there's high demand for Bitcoin because it is fixed and there will only ever be 21 million. So as the supply is going down and cutting in half every 4 years of Bitcoin, while other supplies, such as the dollar, is increasing by 7% a year. So just look at this. The dollar supply is increasing every year. The Bitcoin supply is decreasing. Make sense? Okay. So if the supply of something is increasing, the value of that over time is going to go down. The supply of the dollars is increasing by 7% every year. Okay. The supply, the amount of gold that's being mined every year is 2 to 3%. It's increasing. So the value of these assets or these currencies is going down over time. With Bitcoin, the supply is decreasing. So the value is going up. Make sense? And because it is fixed, and there will only ever be 21 million, where do you want to store your money long term? And there's the thing when people who are new to Bitcoin go, yeah, but you're not, like, it's not a medium of exchange, meaning you're not going to go into and use it and go buy things with Bitcoin, right? Like, you're not going to go into a McDonald's and buy a hamburger with Bitcoin, or go into Kentucky Fried Chicken and buy some chicken, or you're not going to go to the store and buy something with Bitcoin. Well, yeah, I mean, most people are not going to. I mean, why would you go buy something with Bitcoin? I saw a dude in Starbucks the other day just take out his wallet and go to Starbucks and buy something with Bitcoin, buy a coffee with Bitcoin. But like, most of us aren't going to spend it because it's a store of value, right? Just like you wouldn't take gold and you wouldn't go walk into Kentucky Fried Chicken and buy, be like, hey, here's a little bit of gold. Give me my Kentucky Fried Chicken. Because it's a store of value. You store the value of your money in it. So over time, the value of your hard-earned energy and work that you put in, and the income that you get, and the money that you get in exchange for your hard-earned work, all that hard hours that you put in, you want to store that monetary energy that you're exchanging into the marketplace. You work hard, you get that monetary energy. What are you going to do with that money? You want to store it somewhere where the value will go up. That's Bitcoin, right? Again, I'm not recommending what you do with your money. I'm just saying, if I were in that situation and I were looking at it right now in a new unit of time of where I would store my value, I would be storing it in Bitcoin, which is why I am storing my money in Bitcoin, which is why I've been storing it in there since 2018, and which is why long-term I will continue to hold Bitcoin. Now, I also own Microstrategy, and it's a large percentage of my portfolio. What will I do in 2025 with it? Might I take some profits in 2025? Yeah, I might. I might take some profits in 2025. When will I do that? I don't know yet. Okay. So if you're just joining us, my case for 2025, I'm going to give you my predictions on it. I'll also show you the trade that I made on Friday that is now down about 15% last I looked. So it's down 15%. So while I show you trades that are up, I also show you stuff that's down. So here are my predictions in 2025. I believe in 2025, we will see $150,000 Bitcoin. That's my base case. My bullish case is $200,000. In MicroStrategy, I believe that my base case for MicroStrategy, I think we'll see an $800 MicroStrategy in 2025. And I think my bullish case for it will be $1,000 to about $1,300. If we see a $200,000 Bitcoin, I think we will see a $1,200 to $1,300 MicroStrategy or beyond that. If we see $150,000 Bitcoin, will we see a $800 MicroStrategy? I think definitely. Okay. So right now, MicroStrategy is around 300. Bitcoin's around 92,000 last I looked. So that's what I think we'll see. Is this financial advice? No, it's not. If somebody's getting into Bitcoin and MicroStrategy now, is there risk associated with it? Yes. Over the long term, do I think Bitcoin is a great store of value? If I was looking at it over 4 to 5 year periods and I was brand new, would I invest in it today for myself personally? Yes. And again, just giving you transparency, I've been buying Bitcoin since 2018. So I did not get into the game late. I got in very early. Do I think it's too late to get in? No. Do I think we will see $1 million Bitcoin one day? Absolutely. Absolutely. One day, do I think we'll see it? What year? I don't know. Maybe 2033, maybe 2035. Do I think we'll get to 200,000 Bitcoin this year in terms of the price? I think potentially. In my bullish case, yes. But I think more real is 150,000 in terms of a solid base case where, like, I think we'll get to 150. Yeah. Could we get to 200? Yeah, possible. So there you have it. So I'm holding on to Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. Again, if you look at the beginning of the year, Bitcoin was at about 40,000 at the beginning of this year. It's now at 92. So perspective, okay? Did people think we were going to run up to 108? Did I think we were going to break 100,000 by the new year? I did think we were going to break 100,000. We did. And now we're back down to 92. We went to 108 so far this year. Again, MicroStrategy has been as high as 479 in the regular trading markets. In the after hours markets, it's been as high as 530 this year. So do I think we're going to get back to 530 for MicroStrategy? Absolutely. Like, absolutely. Do I think we'll get back there? Do I think we're going to get it back in the next few days? No. But in 2025, yes. And then to take a look at the trade, I'm going to show you the trade because I promise I show you all the good things. Again, I only trade with about 4% of my money, guys. That's it. Okay. And I don't trade with anything that I can't afford to lose. Okay. That's the first thing. Okay. Second thing is, I showed you a trade I made the other day where I exited out at 15.7%. And now I'm showing you a trade now that that I'm down right now 15% on. Okay. So I placed the trade on Friday, and it looked like it was going to be the bottom. When I trade at 2x. Again, it's super risky. I don't recommend at all that if you're going to trade and you don't know anything about trading, that you get into it. If I were going to learn trading, I'd start trading with paper money and I'd watch it for long periods of time. And so trading is risky. I like it because it's a fun game, and I enjoy doing it. Most of the time, if I pay attention to the charts, I would say the charts, like some of the charts I showed you Friday, show that it's right 100% of the time. Nothing's right 100% of the time. I said kind of downgraded and say it's right 90% of the time. But if you could go for being right 80% of the time in trading, you could win. Okay. So the trade that I placed on Friday, if I look at the price right now, I got to get my cursor back over here. Here we go. But if I look at where I bought in to show you the ups and the downs, yeah, so it's down 13%. So share this on screen. So again, the trade, I traded MSTU, which is a 2x. And if you look at, let me just make the screen bigger for you here if I can do this. Yeah, so if you look at the screen here, here's what I trade using. Okay, I bought in. I have not sold out yet, so while I'm down 13%, I'm gonna hold on to it till it recovers, until I can exit out in a profit. But normally when I'm making trades with this stuff, I'm in and out in a day and a half, and I'm in and out for 15%, making money. When I'm making money, sometimes I'm in and out for 5%, sometimes I'm in and out for 8%, and sometimes I get in a trade like this where it's down, and sometimes I lose money. So beware when you're trading that you can absolutely lose money. This is called MSTU. It's a 2x long of MicroStrategy. So if you know anything about MicroStrategy, MicroStrategy owns a whole lot of Bitcoin, and they are the largest corporate holder of Bitcoin on the planet, and this is a 2x. And so some guys got together and said, hey, we're going to put together this fund, and we're going to bet that this fund is going to kind of mirror MicroStrategy, and when MicroStrategy goes up, this fund is going to go up 2x, and when MicroStrategy goes down, this fund is going to go down 2x. And so basically, if MicroStrategy goes up 5%, this goes up about 10%. When MicroStrategy goes down 5%, this goes down about 10%. So if you look at the markets today, MicroStrategy is probably down 6%, and this is down about 13%, right? So pretty simple. If you look at the trade that I placed on Friday, if you look at the first two green arrows over here on the left, this was a signal here on the two green arrows to actually buy. And then as you trace the yellow line down, this is basically how I trade. You watch the yellow line down, you wait for the line to turn blue. And so if you see the yellow line, it then turns down and it eventually turns blue. I bought into that trade around 9 point something the other day. And typically when you see this, it's a sign that, wow, you buy in, and most of the time this chart is right. But what we saw is the blue line, it switched blue, and then it immediately opened up this morning, and it spiked down yellow. You see this big spike down yellow, and it drops like 13%. And now you see the green arrows coming in again, and then you see again the yellow has turned to blue, which is a signal that it should start going up. And And so you could buy in again here with the hopes that it would go up. So I bought in once. I'm not layering in again, purely for just my trading rules on my cash. So I only trade with about 4% of my portfolio. So right now I'm going to watch this and my original trade. Let's see if it recovers over the next couple days. We could see a bunch of sell-offs tomorrow too. We have lots of institutions are probably rebalancing right now, where they're selling off before the end of the year, rebalancing their portfolios. Might be selling off for tax purposes as well. So it could be a rocky next couple of days. Who knows what's going to happen in the new year? So I'll update you on this trade and because I'm going to stay in it. I have not sold out, whereas the one I did prior, I sold out at a 15.7% gain. This one I have not sold out. I'm down approximately 13% right now, and I'm not going to sell out. So until it's in profit. Do I believe it's going to go back up? Yes. How long could that take? Could take a week, could take longer, could be sooner. We'll see. So there you have it. That is the name of the game. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. The goal is to win a lot more than you're losing. And again, what I buy into this and hold it long term right now? No, I'm trading this in and out. In terms of this stock MSTU, it's a 2x. Did I buy into some of MSTU early? Yes, full disclaimer. I dumped a whole bunch of money in months and months back. I then took about a 40% gain on that money I dumped in. I pulled out all my principal, and then I let the gains ride on this stock months and months and months back. But it's very, very volatile. It's a 2x. And would I recommend holding it? No. I am trading this on leverage, and I'm trading it on an every couple day basis. So there you have it. So I hope this serves you. Again, what am I using to trade? It's simple. I don't own this software. I get nothing by telling you about this because there's no affiliate fees for me. TradingView is what I use here. And then I also subscribe to Invest Answers. So some of the scripts and graphs that you see in here are as a result of Invest Answers. And so I plug TradingView in with some of their scripts, and that's how I get these charts. Why did I decide to trade MicroStrategy? Because I know quite a bit about it, because I've been following it for years. Again, I bought my first, I bought into MicroStrategy initially in 2020, very little in 2020 I bought the majority of MicroStrategy early in 2024. And I've been studying Michael Saylor and the stock for a long time. And so I know quite a bit about it. So I trade things I know something about. And I also am, I like to take risk. So when I'm trading, I like to play games. I like to trade on 2x. And this is a 2x. It's basically a 2x long MicroStrategy. So I like to trade it, and it's fun. So that's it for the day. If you're just joining us, my predictions for Bitcoin in 2025, 150,000 is my base case, 200,000 is my bullish case. For MicroStrategy, my base case is 800. I believe it's going to go to 800 in 2025. And my bullish case is 2,000 for MicroStrategy is 1,000 to 1,300. All right, there you have it. Hope it serves you. I do own some Tesla too. We'll talk about that another time. I started investing in Tesla, I think back in 2017 was my first buy of Tesla. And then I rotated out all of my Tesla in early 2024, and I rotated out into MicroStrategy, which was a great move for me to do that. And then I rolled back in some profits into Tesla months and months back. So I still have some money in Tesla as well. All right. Hope this serves you. And I'll see you guys on the flip side. Hope you're doing well. Again, me sharing these trading charts are not financial advice. It's just to play a game. It's just to have fun. If you want to learn to trade, you could trade with paper, guys. You can get into TradingView. They have paper that you can trade with where you don't need to trade with real money. Alpaca is also an exchange that's on here that you can plug into and literally trade paper money and just have fun with it. I'm in the process of automating a software that will trade for me because I'm tired of, looking at the charts every several minutes when you're trading, and I'm looking to trade in a more automated fashion. So I'll let you know when that comes out. All right. And then I'm also coming out with a new money platform in 2025. The first beta version will be ready in 2025. In about 30 days, the whole idea is to make money simple and make investing simple and explain it in third grade terms. And so I'm going to create some pretty cool stuff and a software that's coming out that initially I'm going to give away for free. So hope it serves you. See you on the other side.